pires Pokémon de chaque génération.
Today, we're diving into the worst Pokemon introduced in each generation, as a sort of
Chaque
catharsis for all
génération,
that Game
le
Freak
pire
pushed
Pokémon.
through. And of course, we're sticking with final stage Pokemon. So our choices are those that are really so bad that they just have no uses or viability whatsoever, no matter what you try to do and where you try to do it. Of course, there's usually more than one Pokemon that could be considered for this kind of thing, so we're including 2 additional contenders for each generation. Now, without further ado, let's kick things off, or punch things off rather,
Let's go.
Hitmonchan in Gen 1. Hitmonchan is the worst fighting type in the generation where fighting is the worst type in the game. This is not the end-all be-all, of course, but it's a heck of a solid start. That said, its competition is stiff, in the form of those famously flawed early game bugs, Butterfree and Beedrill. Themselves no slouches in the department of bad, exploitable typing, and appalling poor stats, leading them unable to leave any sort of impact on the game. Hitmonchan's got base 105 attack, which is actually quite good, and is faster than both of them, beating out Beedrill by 1 point. So how could it be Hitmonchan? Or just as valid as a question, how could it not be either of the bugs? Well, right off the bat, Butterfree has access to Sleep Powder, and Sleep is an especially powerful stat, lasting as many as 6 turns and preventing the opponent from moving when they wake up. It's frighteningly close to a free KO, and with a perfectly workable base 70 speed stat, Butterfree will be able to get it off. It can also spread that other massively powerful status, Paralysis, through Stun Spore. This is enough to make up for the fact that it's not doing any real damage on its own, though at least it can pull off some psychic special drops. Okay, but is it not clearly Beedrill then? Well, Beedrill actually has the tools to potentially finish the game off against a very, very weakened team, mind you, but with Swords Dance boosted Hyper Beam at its disposal and potentially even agility, it's got more to work with than Hitmonchan. It's also got much better stab because its Twin Needle, weak though it is, actually strikes the best type of Psychic for super effective damage. Hitmonchan's stab, on the other hand, thuds into said type and pretty much everything else for that matter, even when hitting neutrally. Sure, it hits normal and rocks super effectively, but its stab move is the pathetic 80 base power, 80% accurate, 25% recoil-inducing submission. It's probably going to miss or have its recoil be more impactful in helping your opponent KO you way before it's going to leave any significant mark on the opponent's team, especially since it has no move pool to speak of. What really makes Hitmonchan dreadful, though, is that it is ridiculously frail. With base 50 HP and a whopping 35 special, it makes Beedrill look like Chansey in comparison. Hitmonchan gets rolled by every special attack in the game, and its comparatively enormous base 79 defense still isn't very good with that paltry HP stat. And as far as getting destroyed by everything and doing no damage to anything, Hitmonchan's the best. Now for the second generation pick with Ledion.
Ok, donc premier c'est Hitmonchan avec Dardarnian et Papillusion
but none can
pour la
compare
première
to
génération.
Ledion's almost impressively bereft array of nothingness.
Ça c'est quoi, c'est...
One
Je sais plus
exception
comment il
is
s'appelle en français.
unknown, which is of course worse, but in our opinion, it doesn't even qualify as an actual Pokemon for the purposes of this list, seeing as it can't even learn 4 moves to fill its moveset with. So we're going with Ledion, which actually seems to hit the minimum threshold for having ostensibly been designed for actual competitive play. It can baton pass agility, and it has dual screen, so that's a pretty neat set, if not for the fact that Ledion's horrendous weakness-riddled typing goes along with the physical bulk lower than Apom's, and even its one genuinely good stat, base 110 special defense, is undercut by non-existent HP. Its base 85 speed is also quite good, but functionally useless, seeing as Ledion can't do anything to anything, all while getting thrashed by everything even more than Gen 1 Hitmonchan, on account of all the extra weaknesses Ledion's got tacked onto its so-called bulk. The two also go together with their sharing of a base 35 stat. Too bad for Ledion, it gets a base 35 attack when it's known for using the move Comet Punch, and its move pool is rifled with punching moves, and it would even get Iron Fist as an ability in Gen 5 as some sort of cosmic mockery. Not that you have to get past Gen 2 for that, seeing as it lacks even the ability to pass Swords Dance that it would have in Gen 3 and on. That alone would have rocked it past Apom for worse than game status, but instead Apom's mono normal stab, fighting weakness only Curse Rest Talk set, is chilling as pretty much Snorlax tier, next to Ledion's stunner of a do-nothing toolkit. Remind me again why Ledion didn't get a Mega? Then again, you can say that for most Pokemon on this list, such as the Gen 3 pick Delcatty. Now here we've got a close race again. Delcatty's greatest achievement may not have been competitive, but instead have been looking fierce in the 3D Pokemon game. While the confidence with which it shrugged off a hit may be inspiring, and may have fooled you into thinking it was a tough opponent when facing Pokemon Coliseum Cypher admin Venus, the reality is that Delcatty's only serving losses and not to its opponent. That said, the other contenders sure have a strong claim. At first glance, Dustox appears to be your typical early game bug, even worse than his cousin Beautifly.
Du coup, Gen 2 c'est Ledian. Comment c'est en français, Ledian? Tiens. Coxyclac, ok, Coxyclac. Gen 2, Coxyclac. Gen 1, c'était Hitmonchan, donc Hitmonchan, c'est quoi en français Hitmonchan? C'est Tignon, c'est Tignon. Deuxième Coxyclac, tout Coxyclac. Et dernier.
Such as the Gen 3 pick Delcatty. Now here we've got a close race again. Delcatty's greatest achievement may not have been competitive, but instead have been looking fierce in the 3D Pokemon game. While the confidence with which it shrugged off a hit may be inspiring, and may have fooled you into thinking it was a tough opponent when facing Pokemon Coliseum Cypher admin Venus, the reality is that Delcatty's only serving losses and not to its opponent. That said, the other contenders sure have a strong claim. At first glance, Dustox appears to be your typical early game bug, even worse than his cousin Beautifly, since the latter actually has a decent attacking stat and is immune to Earthquake and Spikes, qualities Dustox impressively lacks. You've also got Mightyena, which after the initial awe of seeing either Maxie or Archie lead off with it and intimidate you wears off, Mightyena feels like a not fully realized Pokemon whose final stage was left unfinished, thus leaving Mightyena out to dry. It doesn't have any good stats, even its best one, attack.
Ça va, Mightyena.
And in Gen 3, it lacks physical stat being a dark type. However, when you consider them against Delcatty, these two look like titans of competitive dominance. Dustox has what can be considered, under the circumstances, a real special defense stat, and has some good utility moves. Moonlight's healing, Sludge Bomb is an actually worthwhile stab move, and has a 30% poison rate, and it can even phase around some Spikes damage with Whirlwind. Meanwhile, the attack boosting Howl, and the status clearing Heal Bell, alongside the general excellence of Intimidate, Mightyena can actually leverage some use, both offensively and defensively, maybe even on the same set. Plus, incomplete though its stat spread may seem, next to Delcatty, it's rocking some serious third stage numbers, which means the Heal Bell that Delcatty also has winds up useless when it can't actually take any hits so as to safely pull it off, nor does its Wish or its Thunder Wave or even its Calm Mind baton passing. Delcatty is certainly not lacking in impactful moves, and it's even got Ice Beam in its coverage arsenal, but it's brandishing them, if it can even be called that, from non-existent stats, a largely useless ability, and Mononormal's distinct lack of resistances. On the bright side, Delcatty's pre-evolution Skitty is amazing in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, so there's that. Now on to the gen with the best Mystery Dungeon game, the fourth, with Kricketune. Gen 4's got no shortage of Pokemon shoving and scrambling in the race to the bottom. Kricketune may have won, yet something like Wormadam could have just as easily been here, but it was deemed too viable for having access to Stealth Rock. That said, seeing as Bibarel is such an icon of uselessness, on par with Ledion itself, it may come as a surprise to not see it here in all its bland, ineffective non-glory. However, the fact that it has an actually synergistic stab combination alongside two excellent abilities in Simple and Unaware means that, while it falls far short of those abilities' potential, it still has something it can aspire to. And this means even such a lowly beaver can still look down on the pair of bugs below it. Mothim, Wormadam's cousin, also had a shot, simply because it has a terrible case of We Have Yanmega at Home, introduced in the same generation as this apex predator of bug flying type. Mothim is dust in Yanmega's hard-beating wings, unable to bypass its awful typing that just got so much worse with the introduction of Stealth Rock, the way the latter did with its auspicious amalgamation of attributes. However, you've got to hand this one to Kricketune. It may only pack a standard Stealth Rock instead of a double bug, but it worked overtime to make Mothim look extra good. Just like Mightyena, it has a strange, almost uncanny feeling of missing a third stage evolution. So low are its stats, but Mightyena has at least
le perso, genre il est sympa, genre le design on va dire qu'il est sympa, mais le Pokémon est nul quoi.
Meanwhile, afflicted with the perils of Monobug's uselessness offensively and especially defensively,
Hello.
even if it had an actual move pool, it wouldn't have amounted to anything. Kricketune's greatest strength is in the musicality of its design, but the world's smallest violin plays for its competitive viability. Now that we're done bugging out over Kricketune's sad song, we're moving our watch on to Generation 5 with Watchog. Watchog is unnerving the way it looks.
Est-ce que c'est vraiment le pire Watchog? Je sais pas en vrai. Je sais pas si c'est vraiment le pire Watchog. Genre, j'aime bien. Bah, non, il est nul. J'ai rien dit.
So you've got to have something else you can do. Sadly, outside of Hypnosis, Watchog otherwise has a bad case of generic normal type disorder. It's not the worst in this regard, as its move pool is, well, not great, but Thunder Wave and Knockoff are amazing moves. Maybe throw the health having Super Fang into the mix and you've got something? Anything? Nope. The Pokemon that coast with pure utility moves generally have other traits that make them worthwhile, as ruinous as T-Wave can be, it alone cannot make up for Watchog's complete and utter lack of stats and resistances. Maybe if it has some sort of ability it can actually use. It's not that analytic is a bad ability, very far from it, but it's not suited to Watchog's non-existent power, bulk, or inability to force anything to switch out. Well, one of its competitors, Heatmor and Emolga. Heatmor already comes out on top, no question about it, for having both actual stab and attacking stats, as well as a fitting move pool and even an ability in Flash Fire. Emolga at least makes it close. It is itself almost devoid of anything useful to do, unable to either deal or withstand damage, but it does have much more useful typing, brandishing the same electric flying as Zapdos, which it may as well be relative to Watchog's complete non-entity. It's got actual resist and immunities, including even one to electric thanks to motor drive.
C'est Watchog.
More impactful
C'est Miradar.
like
Miradar, ok.
which were not given to the woebegone Watchog for whatever reason. Not that it would have made a difference in the end result, but it's the principle of the thing. Now, while it's not the worst, Emolga's close call here does bring to mind the Pika clones, which brings us to the choice for Generation 6 with Deden. In Generation 7, Tapu Koko showed the world the vast utility of electric fairy typing. In the previous generation, the same type Deden was, one could say, less successful. It's actually got a good speed stat, the same as monsters like Landorus, Incarnate, and Thundersteerian, and its special attack is okay, it's bad, but it's not as desolate as its HP and defenses. But hey, Tapu Koko's special attack was hardly overwhelming in and of itself, and it wasn't exactly a tank either. So while Deden's not setting electric terrain, it can maybe leverage that typing into something? Not quite. The Cheek Pouch ability, which restores 33% after eating a berry, is a cool one, especially since Deden also learns Recycle to restore said berry. But this is the type of ability that makes a good Pokemon better, not one that rescues a bad Pokemon from the brink of unviable oblivion. And that is what Deden is, because it's not like it's got any real earth shakers in its move pool either. This is one of those gems where the race isn't particularly close. Furfrou is a bland normal type with a great ability, the defense doubling Fur Coat, which alongside serviceable special defense and a base speed stat 1 point ahead of Deden makes it look like a choice bander extraordinaire. Even though its base attack is actually 1 point lower than Deden's special attack, and its typing is much less useful. Actually being able to take a hit goes a long way. This isn't to say Furfrou is good. The best it's going to do for you is to note how similar its name is to Frou Frou Foxes in Midsummer Fires. An excellent song by the Cocteau Twins, but the fact that it doesn't collapse to everything it's faced with on the battlefield effectively makes it stronger too, since it gets to attack more. Then there's Meowstic, which is fortunate enough to actually have gotten a Mega, and many other moves as well. Boy, did it need it. It's like
ouais, c'est vrai que Meowstic il était un peu du père.
Thunderwave and dual screens. That's
Il
all it
était
needs,
beaucoup,
right?
même
Can we
beaucoup,
go back to
beaucoup du
focusing
père.
on what we really care about, i.e. the subtle, terrifying design now? Apparently, they answered themselves with a resounding yes, because the only thing Meowstic really had going for it was a good base speed stat. Still, priority dual screens are something. They can even be pretty neat, actually. And even if Meowstic were to go the actual attacking route, it's got Deden beat in power and bulk, despite not having that much
donc c'est
either. Really, Deden's greatest impact is being a Vine-inspired meme. Remember Vine? For those who don't, it was
Après, il est mignon, hein. Le design est bien, mais le Pokémon, voilà quoi.
Let's not linger on such heavy thoughts, and instead move on to our 7th generation pick, whose design certainly doesn't evoke any ideas with Gumshoes. Gumshoes is the best Pokemon there ever was, folks. Really just tremendous. It's so good, it's actually the best at being the worst. You wouldn't think this is even possible, but it's true. All 3 Gen 7 Pokemon are actually overflowing with personality. You can see Gumshoes busting out to YMCA. Oranguru appears to have some serious spirituality going on, and Toucannon feels in the best way like the kind of Pokemon Mirror B would have. We've had some unfortunately bland Pokemon on this list previously, but certainly not here. These 3 are anything but dull, though all of them are normal types. They've all got a distinct set of attributes, starting with even what threatens to be the blandest of all, the mono-normal Gumshoes. You've never seen a normal type like
Après,
this.
Oranguru, c'est joué, hein. En VGC, c'est un peu joué.
Stakeout punishes you
peut être
for
joué dans les
pushing in by
trichomes et tout.
doubling its attacking stat, and it's already got a base 110 attack stat. Okay, any generation would be proud to have this, but that's not even all. It's also got Strong Jaw, perhaps the strongest, and receives a 50% boost to key coverage moves like Crunch and Fire Fang, assuring a wide array of super effective hits against those pesky walls. Finally, it's got the ability Adaptability, which isn't just an impressive series of words, but a powerful boost to its normal stat. Sounds pretty sweet. How is this going to be the worst? Well, while Gumshoes is trying to solve everything through brute force, Oranguru is astral projecting to another dimension, aka using Trick Room, bringing its impact beyond its own damage and supporting its teammates. It doesn't hit as hard, but it's got Nasty Plot, Psychic Stat that has actual super effective targets, and it's actually a very good hit taker, with great HP and special defense alongside good defense, which improves its support
Après,
and
ouais,
hit
solo
taking
normal,
capabilities
c'est
alike. Meanwhile,
un peu
Toucannon
chaud comme
defies
type.
the limitations of the generic normal flying type with an excellent attack stat and a deceptively wide move pool, including knockoff, skill link supported bullet seed, and even overheat. It can even threaten burns on users of contact moves with its signature beak blast. It also helps that its speed and bulk, while actually quite low, still manage to leave Gumshoes in the dust. Yep, all that power Gumshoes claims to offer winds up being no more than hot air, considering how slow and fragile it is. To say nothing of the power itself, for all its advantages, still not being
après, ouais, c'est vrai que, comme j'ai dit, le type normal, genre sans rien, genre juste type normal, c'est ok, mais voilà quoi, souvent ils font les types Pokémon de type normal. Et tu dois les attraper au début du jeu.
Good to excellent. Greedent's got an amazing base 120 HP stat alongside good base 95 defense and usable base 75 special defense, making it quite a hit taker. It's much bulkier physically than Garchomp, for instance, and it's also got base 95 attack. This offers some promise, especially with Belly Drum and the Cheek Pouch ability, synergizing beautifully with Citrus Berry. Well, what of the others? Take a look at Stone Joiner. It's got phenomenal physical bulk between great HP and incredible defense, as well as excellent attack alongside a great attacking move pool. And just when you think it's going to be let down by being slow, you see it even has perfectly workable base 70 speed. Of course, it's a contender for this slot because its special defense is among the very worst in the game, making it all too easy to beat in the grand scheme of things, so long as you had any special attack. But as far as being able to muster a niche, it's much more threatening and immediate than the other two. That said, Orbeetle's still enough to keep it from that lowest slot. It has base 110 defense and 120 special defense. Sure, it doesn't get the most of them thanks to its 60 HP, but don't be fooled because unlike most other full bulky Pokemon, it's also got a perfectly solid base 90 speed. It's not trying to wall, it just needs to take a hit or two. And those defenses not only do the job, they have an easier time doing the job because of the speed. It can also potentially pull off a whale of a dangerous snowball boosting set with agility, iron defense, and weakness policy. It gains a multitude of boosts with which to unleash its stab stored power, while dark and steel types are dispatched with the iron defense boosted body press that also makes it so difficult to break on the physical side. Is it too idealistic to work in practice? Yeah, but compared to Greedent, it's all reliable. Greedent's base 20 speed makes Snorlax and the Slow Twins look zippy, to say nothing of the usual
il est lent le garçon.
Not that bulky, at least
Il est lent
not
le
with
petit Rongrigou là.
resist to work with, and that means it's just not worth the effort of trying to make its speed work for you on Trick Room, especially with its uninspiring normal stab, even at +6. Body Slime isn't exactly the all-destroyer it needs to be. Man, normal types have it rough, as if being normal type wasn't enough. But don't worry, for our 9th generation pick, we've got a Pokemon from one of the best types in the game. Introducing Wugtrio. Not since Ledion has there been a Pokemon so staggeringly, peerlessly terrible. And Wugtrio even shares a base 35 stat with it and Machamp. In this case, it's HP, but even Ledion could at least baton pass something. The worst thing about Wugtrio is how ridiculously pointless it feels. Who on earth is this strange water-type Dugtrio?
Je crois que j'ai jamais vu une fois lui.
It's very fast, yes, and it has a decent attack stat, but to what end? Stab liquidation and what else? Nothing. Even if it didn't have some sort of the worst bulk in the game, it'd be a complete non-entity of a Pokemon. Wugtrio is so completely useless, one genuinely wonders what inspired Game Freak to make it, especially since Dugtrio already had an Alolan form, which was also pointless, spectacularly so, and they basically just did the same thing again, except it's a water type now. There is nothing else that comes close in Generation 9, or any generation really. Even Ledion would be preferable.
Ah bon? Ah même Coxyclax c'est mieux que ça? Ah ouais. Et bah les gars, si vous avez vu votre Pokémon là-dedans, je suis désolé, mais ça veut rien dire. Moi, Rondoudou, il a des stats pas ouf, mais tu peux le faire marcher. Donc, même si votre Pokémon, il a pas l'air fort sur le papier, il y a toujours un moyen. Toujours un moyen. Donc, n'abandonnez pas et jouez votre Pokémon favori. On s'en fout s'il est bon ou pas. Jouez votre Pokémon favori. Trouvez des techniques pour qu'il marche. C'est ça qu'on veut voir. C'est ça qu'on veut voir. Des trucs stylés comme ça. Bon, sur ce, j'espère que vous avez apprécié. À toutes, bisous, ciao.